Mahomet, Tragedie by Voltaire. Act 4, Scene 3, Side and Palmyra. Side said, Palmyra, art thou here? What fatal cause hath led thee to this seat of horror? Palmyra said, Fear, and the love directed me to find thee. Side, to ask thee what dread sacrifice thou meanest. To offer here, do heaven and Mahomet demand it from thee? Must it be, O speak? Side said, Palmyra, thou commandest my every thought, and every action all depend on thee. Direct them as thou wilt, inform my soul and guide my hand, be thou my guardian God, explain the will of heaven which yet I know not. Why am I chosen to be its instrument? Of vengeance are the prophet's dread commands, irrevocable. Palmyra said, Side, we must yield in silence, nor dare to question his decrees he hears. Our secret sighs, nor are our sorrows hid from Mahomet's all-seeing eye to doubt. His profanation of the deity. His God is God alone. He could not else be thus victorious, thus invincible. Side said, He must be Side's God, who is Palmyra's. Yet, cannot my astonished could conceive a being tender, merciful, and kind, commanding murder. Then again I think, to doubt is guilt. The priest, without remorse, destroys the victim by the voice of heaven. I know that Zoper was condemned. I know that Side was predestined to support the law divine. So Mahomet ordained, and I obey him. Fired with holy zeal, I go to slay the enemy of God. And yet methinks another deity draws back my arm, bids me spare the victim. Religion lost her power when I beheld the wretched Zoper, duty urged in vain, her cruel plea exhorting me to murder. With joy I listened to the plaintive voice of soft humanity, but Mahomet, how awful, how majestic, who can bear his wrath? His frowns reproached my shameful weakness. Religion is a dreadful power, alas. Palmyra, I am lost in doubts and fears. Discordant passions tear this feeble heart. I must be impious, must desert my faith, or be a murderer. Side was not born for an assassin, but 'tis heaven's command, and I have promised to avenge its cause. The tears of grief and rage united flow. Contending duties raise a storm within. And thou alone, Palmyra, must appease it. Fix my uncertain heart, and give it peace. Alas, without dreadful sacrifice, the tie that binds us is forever broke. This only can secure thee. Palmyra said, Am I then the price of blood, of Zoper's blood? Side said, So heaven and Mahomet decree. Palmyra said, Love never was meant to make us cruel, barbarous, and inhuman. Side said, To Zoper's murderer, and to him alone Palmyra must be given. Palmyra said, O hard condition. Side said, But 'tis the will of Mahomet and heaven. Palmyra said, Alas. Side said, Thou knowest the dreadful curse that waits on disobedience, everlasting pain. Palmyra said, If thou must be the instrument of vengeance, if at thy hands the blood which thou hast promised shall be required. Side said, What's to be done? Palmyra said, I tremble to think of it yet. Side said, It must be so. Then thou hast fixed this doom. Palmyra has consented. Palmyra said, Did I consent? Side said, Thou didst. Palmyra said, Detestest thought. What have I said? Side said, By thee the voice of heaven speaks its last dreadful command, and I obey. Yon fatal altar is the chosen seat of Zoper's worship. There he bends the knee to his false gods. Retire, my sweet Palmyra. Palmyra said, I cannot leave thee. Side said, Thou must not be witness to such as a deed of horror. These, Palmyra, are dreadful moments. Fly to yonder grove. Thou wilt be near the prophet there away. Zober must die then. Yes, his fatal hand must drag him to the earth, there murder him, and bathe yon ruined altar in its blood. Die by thy hand. I shudder at the thought, but see he comes, just heaven. The farther part of the stage opens and discovers an altar. Now, I would say that there has never been a murder or any sort of injustice commanded by Islam. And horror, well, the 1880s was a particular time that started what some people call the age of horror or the age of terror, with Hitler's birth of April 20th, 1889. And, because he was somebody who brought to the attention this agenda of the Nazi'im, which has nothing to do with the NSDAP, well, except that they ruled the NSDAP and the Allies. So the Allies and the Axis were both sort of ruled by the same people, but anyways, so but the horror would be letting the tyrants continue. Muhammad never said, like, for example, the people, the 10 who were to be killed when Mecca was conquered, that despite the peace agreement being reached, as long as nobody fought them when they came in, people stayed in their homes or clung to the Kaaba, regardless of what they worshipped. He didn't force anybody to change their religion when he conquered there or anywhere else. Those 10 people were people who continued to be part of the opposition. And it wasn't just they were theological opposition, but they were always disbelievers. Of course, there are the fifth columnists.